Hey YouTube friends, thanks for tuning in once again for another action figure review by Tycondrius. And today we are taking a look at something I haven't looked at in a while, technically. Well, I have looked at some of the Joy Toy scale figures, which is the 1/18 scale, but in this scale I haven't actually looked at anything in a little while, and in fact I haven't even picked up anything from the previous wave. But this is the Mcfarlane Warhammer 40,000 Astra militarum Kasrkin. At least I think that's how you pronounce their name. I used to always call them Kasrkin or Kasrkin, something along those lines, but I think they're pronounced Kasrkin or Kasrkin. I'm not entirely sure what way you pronounce their name, but he comes in the newer style packaging. So on the back you just have an image from, I believe it's from the 10th edition Codex cover, and you have the Imperial Aquila across it, or the Imperial logo with the wings and the skull, and you have the Astra militarum Kasrkin. And in fact, when you open up the box, in fact, if I open it up at the bottom, now when I got this guy, the box was already open, and there was a reason behind that. The person who I bought this off, when Mcfarlane sent this to, or well, the distributor sent this to the retailer that I picked it up off, the figure was packaged backwards in it, so all you could see was this on the inside, and you couldn't tell if the figure was there. So I'm going to grab that. There is a trading card that I hadn't actually taken out of the box, but you are treated to a window box display, and it's a double plastic tray, so you have one tray covering the other, holding everything in. The weird thing about this, you can't see it now because it's already been opened, is the actual plastic tray. There is a kind of like, not wire, but it's that kind of plastic stuff for holding the figure in place. That goes through both trays, so just bear in mind when you are opening it, if you just clip off the one piece and expect the figure to fall out, you need to kind of clip through both. But for the figure, you're again treated to the same card art that the back of the box has, and you have the Imperial logos on it, or the Astra militarum they're called now, which they used to be called the Imperial Guard. Kasrkin: among the storied regiments of Cadia, the Kasrkin are lauded as the elite of the elite. These special operatives are trusted with more potent weaponry, such as the high-powered hotshot lasguns, which none of the figures come with, which is a damn shame. Such as the hotshot lasguns, and equipped with thicker carapace armor than their peers. The Kasrkin are peerless shots and battle-tested killers, disciplined and professional. They are equal or superior to any augmented warrior of the Imperium. So we have the basic guardsmen, aka the Astra militarum Guard, Imperial Guard. These guys are like the SAS or the Marines or the Special Forces version upgrade for that particular army. So this is one of the Cadian ones. Again, most of the models for these are done, like most of the miniature models, is this design, and people paint them to their desired company. So you have stuff like the Catachans. I don't think there was ever a Catachan version of these. The Valhallans definitely didn't have one. Before these guys came on the market, there was a unit called the Stormtroopers, which were essentially these guys, but a little bit less. They had a look, they didn't have all the armor on them. They just looked like they were wearing military fatigues. They did still have the hotshot lasguns, although I think they were called Hellguns back then, maybe. But I think they were renamed to hotshot lasguns at some point. And they came with a host of, they all had berets. So they kind of look similar to how the Tempest Scions look, which are, if I grab one, and he doesn't have the beret on him, which is the command squad stuff, but these guys have the kind of beret on them. This is obviously not the same scale, because as you can see, this is the Joy Toy figure version. But moving that aside, we have this guy. So I'm going to bring in the tape measure so you can see how tall he is. Unfortunately, I can't find my Dark Tide Imperial Guardsman. There is a previous release Imperial Guardsman figure, which I don't have, and I had a bunch of the Traitor Legion ones, which are the Chaos ones, which I converted. Again, they are in a box somewhere, and I cannot find them for the life of me. So, actually, the highest point of this guy would be his antenna on his backpack, so that does bring him into around the 7.5 inch. He's generally a 7-inch figure if you count to the head, but because he has this extra antenna piece, it just puts him over a little bit over height on it. So these guys should, in theory, be in scale with other sort of Mcfarlane, although he looks a little shorter compared to Sheriff, or is it not Brody Hopper, Sheriff Hopper from the Stranger Things line. So I'm going to throw him over here out of the way, and we will bring in his accessories. So there is two versions of this guy. There is this painted version, and now at the time of this recording, these guys are just kind of starting to pop out or pop up on shelves, and I don't know if there's a chase variant. There was a chase variant of the Imperial Guard, the Traitor Legion guy. So there was two versions of him, one being a chase variant where the default one was the one with kind of zombie face. The other one had like a rebreather gas mask similar to how this guy looked. I don't know if there's a chase variant for this guy. As I said, there is an artist proof version, and from what I can tell, the only difference between this guy and the artist proof is this. This guy comes with a plasma gun. The artist proof one comes with the Imperial grenade launcher. So there's just a difference in the main weapon. I think he comes with all the same accessories, bases, hands, the different types of hands, and probably the same trading card as well. So that said, this guy comes with a pointy fist hand, which is something that Mcfarlane seems to be doing more and more with some of the releases. Even the Batman Forever line has had Robin with a pointy fist, so it seems to be something coming in down the wave. Both his, actually I should note that both his alternate hands are for his left hand. So his default hands that comes with are these trigger finger hands. He doesn't really need to, like if you're going to wheel him with the plasma gun, you don't really need to swap it out. The only reason I had this guy holding the alternate hand, which is a very outstretched hand, is because I was testing this. This is the artist proof version, because I don't have the actual standard, the standard guardsman didn't come with a lasgun. So this is basically an Imperial lasgun from the artist proof version of the Dark Tide Guardsman. My artist proof one is in bits, so I couldn't bring it over to do a scale comparison, because I was in the process of, well, I've been in the process of painting it up for at least the last half a year since I got it. It's been sitting painted, half painted as a Praetorian Guardsman. And if you're familiar with the Imperial Guard regiments, you will know which regiment that is. So I wanted to see if this would fit this guy, because technically these guys should by default have a lasgun, even though they're the Hell or the Hotshot lasgun. This guy, because they gave him this extra arm piece, does kind of hold it quite nicely. I don't think you can get kind of a look down the scope, because this is the sniper rifle configuration. The general lasguns don't have the sights on it, or the bipod piece. So this is like a kind of more specialized one, but you can see he does hold it quite nicely. But if you want him with his default weaponry, I would recommend more so over this open stretch hand to leave him with this more trigger finger hand. It does seem to fit quite nicely, because this plasma gun not only has the normal handle or the normal trigger guard, It also has this handle on the side, which is, I think, how the miniature looks. My Imperial Guard plasma guns generally tend to be conversions from other ranges and stuff. I don't know if I actually even have an actual Kasrkin one. So let me just move his hand back onto its post, because it does fit on it. It just likes to pop off. And he can wield his las gun quite nicely. He does come with one of the basic bog standard stands, which has a peg hole. There is pegs or peg on it. There is peg holes on the feet for him to stand on it. So if you're having difficulty getting him to stand, you can have him standing like that on this base. So you can get him to stand a little bit better while he's standing, because he seems to be leaning over for some reason. He doesn't seem to be our default position. There we go. He's already popped off his base. Great. So we'll just move him back a bit and move him into a kind of a more standard positioning. So he does actually stand. It's just a bit of a pain, but he does actually stand. So for articulation, we'll do a quick rundown. We'll grab his gun out of his hand. It can be a bit of a pain getting it in the first time because the hands are quite solid, but once they loosen up a bit, it's not too bad. So he does have that kind of butterfly-ish, well, kind of rounded peg joint. He has now the bicep swivel. I kind of wish they would have done it a bit lower, so it didn't get in the way and you got better swivel. This kind of remained in position, because this does, when you're using the bicep swivel, does bounce off the shoulder, or the shoulder armor does bounce off the chest armor. So it is a little bit of a weird design. He does have double jointed elbows, which do kind of look a little funky when you have them extended, or not extended, folded up. He does have the round ball peg hinge in the wrist, so depending on which way you have it aligned, you can either have the wrist going side to side or up and down. His backpack is not a separate piece. Well, I think it might be a separate piece for the sculpt, but it is glued in place. It doesn't come as a separate piece in the box. His head is on a ball joint, so you get some good range of movement up, down, side to side. He does have a double ab crunch. Yes, he does have the waist swivel, and then he has an ab crunch on the waist. Now, bear in mind, if you're pushing him forward, this will pop this over his belt, unless you get it wedged in underneath, and then it's just going to get all tangled up. His legs and hips are where he has the most, or the least amount of articulation, and I did make that mistake on this one. I will have to glue it back into place. So you can see this plate, armor plate on his waist, is just glued in place. I tried moving the leg forward and it popped it off, so you can see I left it deliberately like that, so you can see how it's just glued in on a little peg in place, but it does hinder movement quite a lot on the legs. You're not going to get dynamic posing out of the legs. There isn't even a thigh swivel. There is double jointed knees, so you have that. There isn't a boot cut, and there is the kind of rocker ankle on the, or rocker joint on the ankles. And then you have that little boot, which is super tight on this one because I haven't used it. He does have the boot cut. You can just about make it out on this. So he does have a good enough range of articulation, but his legs is where he's downfall. I'm not sure if there would be any way to counteract it, even as a customizer, because the only way this would probably, if you could make it out of even softer material, or get rid of this altogether and maybe try make some sort of soft goods piece for it. Like, that would add to the cost, which is why they probably didn't go for that in the first place. But it is what it is. So for other size comparisons, we will bring in some stuff from the 40k universe that I have to hand. Just move some stuff around. Come on, stand up, Stumpy. I'll try and get him to stand. He can be a bit funky to stand, even though he shouldn't really be top heavy. He just seems to be for some reason. There, we'll leave you like that. If I can get this guy without not knocking everything over. We're bringing, is it Raven Guard? Was he Raven Guard? I can't remember the name of the chapter of the Space Marine, but we're bringing one of the Space Marines. Now, I don't know, I don't have any of the newer Space Marines because it did do the Space Wolf and the Horn Berserker. I don't know if they swapped up the scale on them a bit, but these are the previous scale, kind of the first generation before they went with that new box design for the Space Marines. So technically I think the Space Marine should be at least a little bit higher, so they're more in scale to 6-inch figures than 7-inch human characters. I have a few of the Xenos that I managed to dig out. So here he is next to the Mcfarlane Warrior, who is quite hunched over, and we'll bring in the good old classic Guard versus Orcs. Now, Mcfarlane has only done Orcs in Mega Armor. They haven't done like the basic Orc Boy. We're going to squidge him in without knocking everything over, which is probably not going to happen. And get this guy standing up behind him, so you can see how big the Orc Boy is. Like, if I was to stand the Necron to his full height, where he's not completely hunched over, even though I think Necrons generally tend to be kind of hunched over, even on the miniatures, they kind of have a hunch back to them. You can see how tall the Necron Warrior stands to this guy. If I can get him to stand without falling over like this guy either. So you can see he is a bit taller than your average human. He's almost nearly the height of the Space Marine. So, you know, you have to take it for what it is. Unfortunately, I don't have the Gene Stealer or the Adapta Serratus figure handy. But again, they should be in scale. I think their Adapta Serratus are around the same size as the Imperial Guardsmen, which would make sense because even though they're wearing power armor, they're not the same height as Space Marines. They're still kind of average human height wearing powered armor, whereas the Space Marines are genetically advanced and genetically modified, so it kind of makes sense that they're a bit taller. Well, they're miles taller than your average human. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick video review for the, I'm going to butcher the name again, the Kasrkin for the Imperial Guard, or the Acadian Kasrkin, depending on which way you look at it. Or Imperial Guard Stormtrooper, Astra Militarum Stormtrooper. He's a pretty cool figure. My only main gripe is that waist part, and I think Mcfarlane really dropped the ball on just limiting him to having the one plasma gun. Had they thought it through, I don't know if they do think things through, because sometimes there's some questionable stuff that they do. Had they included the hotshot las gun, this would make this guy a way more appealable figure, because you could army build him then, and then have a whole bunch of guys. You could squad build and then customize one to be a sergeant, because there's not much difference between the entire squads and their sergeants. The only difference is usually the sergeant miniature has no helmet on, so you could jury rig some way of having the helmet attached at the hip and give him like a bare head, and give him the the chainsword, the kind of standard sergeant equipment, which is a las pistol, which is a hotshot las pistol for these guys, because it is actually similar to the actual las guns. You can even see, I should have pointed this out, you can even see these 2 points on the side of the backpack, and this power pack on the back is exactly where the hotshot las guns are powered from. These are the power banks for it, and these are where the cables go off. Maybe they thought it was too difficult for them to do it with the cabling. Honestly, I think if they had left in kind of a rubber hose cable but not attached it, have it so it plugs in, that way would have been a better option instead. So like, even if it did pop out while you're moving it, you could just easily plug it back in with some sort of small plug, pop and plug kind of system. That way it would have even made it look better. I don't know off the top of my head if the special weapons have the cabling on them. On the miniatures, I think everything on the miniatures had the cabling, so I think even the plasma guns and maybe the grenade launchers, although I don't think it makes sense for the grenade launchers, but maybe definitely the plasma guns I think had a cabling going into the backpack, but I could be wrong. But the las guns and the las pistol for the sergeant definitely did have that cabling, which is a kind of cool look. It kind of gives that kind of, you know, super sci-fi look. So all in all, minor gripes aside, he is a cool figure. He is pretty good. I don't know if people have been, I don't know if people have been super pushed to get the artist proof version, because all he comes with is the grenade launcher over the painted version. And people out there in 3D printer land can go to town and pretty print out the actual las guns for these guys. Unfortunately, I don't have the resin 3D printer. I have a normal 3D printer, like a PLA one, but I don't think the detailing would be as good on that. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I know I'm probably waffling now at this point, so we'll wrap up here. And I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you watched it all to the end. And as always, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Cheers, guys.